Hey, everybody, and welcome to another installment of The Brew. This is our newest season. It's a reboot. And today, the Great Mother Gaia is inviting you to experience the adventure of loving co creation and partnership. And so I'm really excited because today's guests on The Brew are members of the GAIA.Project, a unique movement that provides structured support for consciously developing and evolving the pathways that connect us to ourselves, to each other, to Gaia and the Multiversal Matrix. And so we'll get back to more of that right after this.
You're watching The Brew with your host, Dr. John Michael Salvato.
Hey, and welcome back to The Brew, everybody. Welcome, Gwen. Welcome, Asa. This, as I said, is the reboot of our weekly broadcast that brings together the mystical and esoteric, metaphysical, and cultural concerns of an awakening consciousness in order to create a more magical life as a community, as individuals, and as a cosmos. And for those who don't know me, I'm John Michael Salvato. I'll be your host. I'm a genderqueer, lifelong practitioner of the esoteric and spiritual traditions that are rooted in my Afro-Sichulo, Southern Italian, and Romani heritage. And our guests on this show come together every week. Unlike previous seasons, if you've been watching the show and are a fan, this new season is kind of a new reboot. It's an opportunity for us to come together and have less of an interview structure and more of an organic conversation. So with us on today's show to kick things off are Gwen, Holden, Barry, and Asa Hoffman, who I'm so privileged to have with me, both as friends, fellow practitioners, and as leaders, I think, in this emerging movement. So Asa, Gwen, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, glad to be here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So let's start out off for people who don't know you guys. Let's take a minute and a half each just to talk a little bit about who you are, what your personal path is, and we'll talk about what led to the creation of the GAIA.Project in a minute. But just to give folks a kind of a sense of who you are, since our discussion today is going to be a smaller panel than normal. And for those who are watching, keep in mind that reminds me that I should turn the comments on, that you can ask questions during the broadcast today. If you are in the Facebook group, you're going to want to make sure that your question or that you've clicked the little button that says connect this to my profile so we see who you are. And then if you're watching this on YouTube Live, you have to make sure that you're logged into YouTube in order to be able to ask questions, and we'll put them up on the screen as those arise. But Gwen, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about who you are, your backgrounds, and all of that.
Oh, well, I'm the blender here at Daughters of Isis. I began this path, this journey about, exactly 30 years ago, opening a shop in Pompano Beach and working with the herbs in our herb room, sticking my hands in the jars. Something woke up inside of me. And I began working not just with the plant medicines, but with their essential energy in the essential oils, which is what I was really drawn to. My education, as it were, I have a psych degree, but one of the most important things that happened for me was taking a summer session with Joe Campbell. And my journey has been about the ancestors and the myths, the stories that really are repetitive throughout all cultures, all of our tribes, all of our nations, all of our clans. And I've married that to indulging in your own path through the stories of our ancestors and the traditions they developed, working with tools. I'm a shamanic tool maker. I create essential oil blends and flower essence companions that are designed to work with the physical genetic structure and then also with the subtle, bridging into our subtle structure, our subtle genetics.
Wow, what a background, and what an incredible approach to both connecting to our ancestors and connecting to our plant ancestors and some of the more subtle ancestors. So welcome, and I'm sure that folks are going to love to hear from about what you guys are doing. Ace, why don't you do the same thing?
Great. So I was born, I would say, a spirit walker. For me, it was easier to spend time among the spirits and to connect with them than it was with people and with the life that was happening around me. And that really manifested in a lot of things as a child, telling my mother about conversations I was having after going to church on Sunday with some of the saints and spirits that were showing up in the room. And it was when I was 14, actually, we moved to Florida, and we had a neighbor from the old country. They were, it was a mother and her two daughters from southern Italy, and they practiced the old ways, and they sort of became my first teachers. And they were, I would say, in some ways, reluctant teachers. They were a bit concerned because I was so young and how my mother might react. So they never fully adopted me, but they gave me a lot of working tools to get back onto the earth and learn how to integrate this more in my life. And then 30 years ago, when Gwen opened the store, I met her. I walked into the store the day it opened, and we had an immediate alignment, and both recognized very quickly that we had dreamed one another. And that felt like that was a sacred connection. And we've been learning together ever since. I've learned so much about the ancestors, about working with oils and essences from her. And together we've created workshops, we've taught around the world and around the country, and we're still aligned and working together today.
Right on. Wow, I had no idea that that was when you guys met, and I'm absolutely jealous that after 30 years of being in business, you make looking your ages so much easier than I make looking my age. But that's some serious magic. And you know, when we do the post production, at the bottom of your screen, you will see some contact information for the Daughters of Isis as well, because I can tell you, as somebody who has used some of Gwen's shamanic tools, they are absolutely, they're so amazing that it's the reason we've had Gwen on several episodes of past seasons. And it's really the reason behind what I wanted to talk with you guys about today, because I just found, in terms of universal timing, in terms of what it can mean for us as individuals, as what it can mean for us on a global and cosmic level, that the idea behind the GAIA.Project is so valuable, so timely, so needed. So why don't you guys tell us a little bit about how the GAIA.Project came about and what it really means, what's really focused on?
By all means, Gwen.
A few years ago, I began working with a couple of ladies in South Carolina who cored this group, Jean Snipes and Lisa Mowry. And they're, energy workers, members of the community, with the focus on co-creative in love with everyone, grounding back to Gaia. But in this essence, I think it's very important to say that it's not just about grounding to Gaia, it's about grounding back in our bodies. And I can tell you, as someone who works halfway out of the body a lot, it's a necessity to be grounded in the body right now. So these ladies did this work. They approached me about creating some tools to work with, because Lisa has worked with my tools for years. And then they approached me about Gaia, the GAIA.Project, the idea of it. And I immediately turned to Asa, because Asa has he has been doing these workshops with the elements and other things, but he has this connection right now in nature with people, grounding like that, not just within themselves, but grounding the elements within themselves and speaking with Gaia. And of course, the elements are the voice of the mother. And so he and Lisa and Jean, and of course the other end of the bench, Kim Murphy, all five of us got together, and we've been working on this ever since. And it's basically one of it's a group that, you know, it's like, well, you don't have to cheer up with a membership or anything. This is people coming together at equinoxes and solstices, and ASA has been trying to work lunar celebrations in. We provide, well, ASA can tell you better what we provide, because he's the mix master and the overviewer of all of that.
I've just been working on the digital content part to get it out there for people. But, you know, one of the important parts of the Gaia project and what resonated so much with me is it's so important at this time that we begin to remember that we aren't on Earth, we are Earth manifest. So just like, you know, you look at the flower growing out of the ground, we come out of the ground and manifest through our mother's bodies. And so we are in alignment, and remembering that and intentionally connecting to it is our responsibility. It is our purpose. It is about harmonizing with that light body that is Mother Earth, that is Gaia, with our light body, with the light body of the universe. And so what we've been providing is meditations, rituals, and practical applications to help people unlock their own creative connection with Gaia, so that they can begin to find their path. And, you know, I've heard you talk about this, John Michael, with people where it's like there's not a right and a wrong way to do this. You know, it's about having tools and a framework to access it, and that's what people need. But they don't necessarily need something imposed upon them that this is the way to do it. And so the Gaia Project, we really wanted to make sure that what we were doing was inviting people into this celebration, but for them to be able to join in the way that they choose.
I think that's one of the things I really liked about that, and then I'm going to touch base on something that both of you just said. But when I started to dig around and watch what you guys are doing and participate, like as you said, you create a framework, but it's a framework that's flexible. It's a framework that, you know, come join us when it resonates with you to join us, and if it's an equinox or a solstice celebration, join us then. If it's a lunar celebration, join us then. If it's right here, right now in this moment when you're watching a video or a meditation, join us then. And I think the reason that struck me as being so timely goes back to what both of you just said. And I want to unpack that a little bit, if you don't mind. And that is talking about grounding, not just grounding to the earth, but grounding within ourselves. And I'd be interested in hearing your perspective if you see a real difference between those two things, or if it's a matter of, from your perception, if it's a matter of recognizing, as Asa just said, that we're not on the earth, we are the earth expressing itself. We come from the earth. And so when we ground ourselves, we're better able to fully incorporate what so many people aspire to, that, oh, I'm going to go out in nature, take off my shoes, and I'm going to ground. And they're grounding with the earth, but not recognizing that they are, in fact, part of that living organism itself.
Yes. Yeah, I would say there is a difference of just grounding as opposed to grounding back to yourself. The difference is, so when we're grounding, we are, again, if we're grounding with the earth, we are grounding with ourselves. But what we're talking about, bringing it back into the body, is a conscious acknowledgement. It's a conscious alignment, which creates a conscious activation within our cells, within our light body system, within every aspect of ourselves. Because even ourselves, we are a collection of life forms, right? We are spirits inhabiting a body, but it's not like the body is this individual thing. The body is a collection, a collaboration of many forms of life. And so when we bring it back into the body that way, we are bringing a cohesion or a harmony with those life forms that are within us and that support us through life, and we're harmonizing that with the earth.
I think it's important to understand too that we're just providing templates for people to work with. We're just providing tools that are, you know, there traditional tools to work with. We're also trying very hard to upgrade them to the moment. However, it's about the individual uniquely conforming a tool to their own expression. This isn't about following the leader. This is about being the leader of yourself and your connection to Gaia and sharing it with others.
So would it be fit? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Asa.
I was just going to say, and in that vein, what it means to ground back to yourself may be different in how Gwen does it than it is for me. You know, I tend to, oftentimes I will ground back to my heartbeat. I think of that moment, right, where my heart started beating in my mother's womb, and I always ground back to that in some way, and how that rhythm has carried me through life. I know Gwen has a different way of grounding back to herself. So even as a collective, we don't necessarily all do it the same way. We just definitely share the same idea about doing it.
And we share our journeys and what we do with everyone that's participating, in the hopes that they will find their own unique pathway into doing that, or their own facility within, to be able to say, you know, like some folks, it's different for everybody. It could be for some people diving into the ocean, you know.
Well, that you beat me. You both beat me to what my question was going to be, because I was going to say, you know, grounding into myself for me is actually following the breath and actually spending time in that space between the breaths. Now, Asa just shared what it is for him. Gwen, I'm going to put you on the spot. What is it for you? Because I think when we share that, we trigger or open for people some of the possibilities that exist for them to explore what that grounding looks like for them. What's it look like for you?
For me, it's very much about I'm visual, and I've worked so long at the bench and went through a lot of different versions of working to infuse energy into my creations and just right on down the road. So for me, one of the primary way I ground is to center in myself and light myself up with my, you know, vision, or, you know, in my mind's eye, visually light myself up. And then I go down to the heart of the planet, visualizing that way and bringing it back up to the soles of my feet and into my heart center. That's basically my grounding. But I have tried different ways. I've worked with drumming, and I've worked with all kinds of breath work. But for me, the strongest is that visual light column that I create.
I'm going to share with both of you one of the comments from one of the folks watching. But before I do that, let me just remind everybody that's watching, in the private Facebook group, there is a link in the notice that you're, you know, right above what you're watching, that says, please click this link to connect to your profile, because it really helps us to know if somebody who's watching is someone we know. We can connect with you a little bit better. But this is somebody who didn't follow that link, but I think what they have to share is equally important. But that link will say, click this link to connect to your Facebook profile. That just helps us personalize your comments a little better. But this person says, love this discussion. Remembering comes to mind, us as members coming back to our source.
That's the journey of Isis. She remembered Osiris. I mean, you're walking up my alley here, you know. But it's true. We are going through a process of remembering. We're remembering ourselves. And in the class we're going to be doing on the Inner Alchemy platform, Asa and I, my home and I, and of course the elements in that, we're remembering that we are more than this physical body, this vehicle. We have a connection that goes straight on up and out. And there's an anatomy there. And we work on that. And we work on the anatomy of the planet. The planet is a living, thriving being of consciousness. And that consciousness, the mental and emotional bodies of Gaia, You could say is the collective of human thought, or you could very well too um, define it as just Gaia's mental body, astral body, emotional body. But all of this comes to bear too in remembering, because we can do that in harmony with Gaia. When you get that done, when you are doing that and it clicks, it's coming home. It's coming
Absolutely.
home.
I also think remembering that expression of the light body and the mental body, we think of it from our perspective here on Earth and as a manifestation, like she said, of the collective or of Gaia. But the opposite is also true as well, which is it's the manifestation of the universe, of the whole expressing as Gaia, of which we are a part.
You know, I love that idea, and I want to, when we come back from our break, I would love to talk a little bit more about that, because the work that you're doing is interesting and fascinating and makes sense. I think to most of the people that are watching this will immediately resonate with them. But if we don't take the time to then talk about what the outcome of that, what's your expected outcome or desire for this project to manifest in the world, then we miss, I think, a great opportunity. So I want to talk about that, and I'm actually going to steer one of the ways for me personally that manifests is in a sharing of our stories that leads to greater compassion in the world, which is what our what do you call them, public service announcement for today's show is all about. More from the GAIA.Project, Asa and Gwen when we come back.
Hi, I'm Adrian Grenier, and I'm a guy you might know. That's why I've chosen to speak to you today, because you know my story. Well, some of it anyway. But what if you knew everyone's story? What if everyone on the planet was familiar to everyone else? The Charter for Compassion wants to find out. They're asking you to tell them a piece of your story. One moment of compassion that changed your life. Each story will be inspiring in its own right, but all of them together will reveal a world of compassion happening right now in places all over the world, as diverse as Kentucky all the way to Pakistan and everywhere in between. Imagine it. Thousands of stories told one person at a time. Someone once said, there isn't anyone you couldn't learn to love once you've heard his or her story. Stories make us care. Stories help us understand. Stories breed compassion. And if there's one thing we need right now, in our politics, in our dialogue, in our communities, in our world, it's compassion. Go to charterforcompassion.org and tell your story. And while you're there, affirm the Charter and make a commitment to make the world a more compassionate place. But it's only the first step. Now it's time to practice. It's the only way to a peaceful world. I can't wait to hear your story.
And welcome back. You're watching The Brew, and with us, our guests today are two of the co-founders of the GAIA.Project, Asa Hoffman and Gwen Holden Barry. Folks, before we went to the break, we were talking with Asa and Gwen about the project itself, and now in the 10 minutes or so that we have left of the broadcast, I would love to hear from both of you what your vision is for how taking this experience, taking this movement, and applying it in our lives. What do you see? What's your vision for how that manifests in our world?
Tapping a oneness. When you can be tangible with a oneness, I can remember years ago, and I know Asa knows who I'm talking about. There was a young man who came in who did drumming workshops, and he introduced me to a saying by the nations, Omatakwiasan, all my brothers and sisters, meaning everything living. It's a oneness. When you tap into that, it evolves you. It opens your heart. And when your heart is open, you begin to understand that this is, there's great capacity in it, because what can happen is a shift in the conscious awareness around you, not just in you, but around you. You're radiating that kind of a shift.
Wow, that was beautiful. Asa.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And I completely concur. And I think, oneness is, I've had the pleasure of having some different Indigenous teachers along the way, and all of them demonstrated oneness through relationship and through the interconnectedness of everything. And I think one of the hopes of the Gaia Project is to help people begin to really increase and strengthen that relationship that they're already in, whether they've recognized it before or not. And to realize that as we strengthen that, the earth, the elements, all the other beings and kingdoms on the planet, they begin to speak back to us. And when that comes alive in us, it awakens another aspect of our spirit, or a greater connection to ourselves as source. And the hope is that the Gaia Project helps to inspire that and to participate in teachings that support people in finding their own relationship.
Wow. I knew this was going to be something slighted. Go ahead.
There is a fullness there. And the world right now around us is shifting and changing in, I think, really a global anticipation of this kind of awakening. I mean, you don't have to be. And this is just part of the community we all share. But at this time, it's also, if you read the documentation we've created for Gaia Project, it is about co-creative exercises, co-creative with Gaia, with us, with everything, all that is. And it's a loving creation. That's the other part about it. And that is love.
Yeah. I just think that's amazing. And before we tell folks how to get in touch with you, when you're watching this, whether you're watching us live or you're watching on the rebroadcast, tell us in the comments what that sort of co-creation looks like for you. What does that oneness look like for you? If you've been following the Gaia Project, what has your experience or your great takeaways been so far? And what do you hope to accomplish by participating in a project that is so rooted in as both of you said today, not just reconnecting, to the earth and the earth to us, but also that sort of, from the microcosm to the macrocosm, in realizing our essential unity, realizing then that essential unity continues to expand to include and encompass all of the cosmos, things seen and unseen, and then brings itself into that point of singularity where we realize that love isn't just our choice, it's our true nature. So I thank you both. Go ahead.
Love is home.
Yeah.
Gaia is home. We are home. And it may sound really broad, but it's really, I think, a kernel of the seed that we're trying to plant. Being home in here, home on here, and home with all.
So I would say that, for folks who are watching, I know there are a couple of ways that you can hear more, because I am absolutely certain that if you're watching this broadcast, you'll want to hear more from these two individuals and from other members of the Gaia Project. Some of the things that are coming up in the day before Samhain, the day before Halloween, we are doing a day-long open house at the Inner Alchemy Mystery School. The Gaia Project is going to be among the presenters there that day. So you'll get to get fed a little bit more and hear a little bit more about this incredible vision. As Gwen said, she and Ace are teaching a class in the Inner Alchemy Mystery School. You'll hear more about the school in the at the end, at the conclusion of our broadcast today. But how can folks connect with you and connect with the project, to sort of take that next step and begin to explore the potential that exists for relationship, for forming this relationship with you guys?
Right now, one of the best ways to connect with us is we have a Facebook page, a group page, and it's the GAIA.Project. If you type it in, we'll come up and join the group, join the conversation, post, read, check out old posts. There's videos in there and a whole lot of material. So we invite you to come and join us.
Anything else you want to add, Gwen?
No, we're also on Instagram.
Yep. Yeah, we haven't yet started a website. We're working towards that, and we'll have it out there in the future.
And both the Facebook page and the Instagram page are going to magically appear on the screen right now as I speak when we do post-production. But for those who are watching inside of our private community, and I will say that we do have a private Facebook group for the Brew. If you like to be on the inside and be able to interact, realizing this was our first broadcast, I knew we wouldn't have a lot of people that were courageous enough to interact. So that unknown Facebook user, thank you for commenting today. But you can actually look us up. I'll put that information on the screen as well, and connect to the Brew so that you can ask questions during these behind the scenes tapings that later get broadcast. This will, for example, be broadcast on the Friday after it's taped live. But through the magic of technology, all of that information is going to appear on the screen when it gets broadcast to the world in general. Asa and Gwen, I want to thank you so much for taking time today to be with us, for sharing your vision, and just for the work that you do. I mean, I couldn't think of a better place to start a new season with the show than with a project that's all about reconnecting, because that's what we try to do on this show. That's what each of us tries to do in the work that we do. And I think you provide, I really think, one of the better, if not the best, frameworks for people to be able to make those kind of meaningful connections. And we have a question from that Facebook user. Will it be available to share? Yes, it will be available to share, but not from the Facebook group. There will be a live broadcast, a rebroadcast of this. The finished product will be up on my Facebook wall, and then on our YouTube live channel as well, so that you can share. And please do, thank you so much for sharing this with folks, so that people can connect to the GAIA.Project and connect to the broadcast as well. This will also be broadcast as a podcast, but that is probably coming. This will be a podcast. Will be a couple about a week out from now. Oh, and the Facebook user is our brother Jim Sayers. That's awesome. So hi Jim, and you can look forward to hearing from Jim on some of the future broadcasts as well. But yeah, the finished product, the post-production product, will be up on my Facebook page, hopefully by Friday, I believe is when without looking at my calendar, when that'll go live. Thank you, Asa. Thank you, Gwen. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we're going to wrap up today with a short little informative video that's sort of an outro to let you know what we do at the Mystery School, where you can hear from Asa and Gwen, as well as another 8 instructors literally from around the world, talking about all sorts of metaphysical and magical topics. This outro is a little bit dated. I have not had a chance to update it, but it'll tell you how to get in touch with us. And for everybody watching, we'll look forward to seeing you soon. Remember, as we say at the end of every one of our broadcasts, stay in the moment. Be grateful for what you've got, because in the moment, when we fill that moment with gratitude, it opens the door for the abundance that's waiting for us. And always remember, the best is yet to come. We'll talk to you soon.
Let me ask you a question. Are you someone who has a deep fascination with the unknown? Is there something within you that just knows there are things we haven't begun to understand? Like the untapped psychic or healing potential that each of us has? Or our ability to connect with our ancestors and the spirits of plants, animals, and unseen worlds. Do you find yourself wishing there was a way to connect with someone with real knowledge of practical magic, herbal healing, divination and metaphysical science? But find yourself put off by the need to pretend that unlocking your powers requires you to worship gods and goddesses, or join a coven or religion? What if I told you that real power, practical magic, and the ability to manifest, heal and unlock the untapped potential for primary greatness doesn't require religious superstition, initiation into a religious coven, or pretending that your spiritual path came from the ancient world? What if I told you that there were people just like you, from every walk of life, around the world, of all ages, supported by a faculty of nearly a dozen qualified teachers and practitioners of magic and esoteric studies? And you don't have to kiss the ass of a made-for-TV witch. You don't have to play dress-up. You don't have to buy into the new age gimmickry and nonsense of pop culture witchcraft and wizardry. At the Inner Alchemy Mystery School, you choose the course of study and the pace that works for you. We celebrate the diversity and sovereignty of every member of our community. Gender and sexual diversity, racial and ethnic diversity, and attention to the need for social justice are at the cornerstone of who we are. And we welcome you to get to know us for free for 7 days. After that, if you want to continue with us, you choose whether you simply want to be part of the community, or if you want to start checking out our classes. With more than 10 hours of new class content added every month, you'll be sure to find classes that interest and challenge you. Take one course, or several. They're all included in your membership. And that's just $2 a day. So what are you waiting for? Come say hello to us, and goodbye to the drama, manipulation, and new age nonsense of the pop culture world of witchcraft. At the Inner Alchemy Mystery School, we're ready to help you find your new tribe.